Hello, Out Entrepreneurs. Rhodes Perry here, and welcome to episode number 51 of The Out Entrepreneur, a weekly podcast where I get to interview today's most inspiring LGBTQ bosses crushing it in business. So I am super excited to be interviewing Reid, who is joining us all the way from San Diego, California. So Reid, are you ready to inspire fellow Out bosses?
I am. Hey, Rhodes.
Hey. All right. So just a little bit about Reid. He is a seasoned brand consultant and founder of Branding for the People, the leading full-service branding agency that helps entrepreneurs and expanding businesses achieve rapid growth, market leadership, and increased impact through the power of Fortune 500 branding. Reid's background includes senior-level positions at top branding firms, and since January of 2011, his agency has inspired and helped thousands of entrepreneurs across 45-plus different industries around the world, from startups, Inc. 5,500 growing companies, and established multi-million-dollar businesses. Whew. Okay, so you're doing a lot, Reid. I am super excited to have you here. Can you tell us just a little bit more about your business and what makes it unique?
Sure. So a little over 7 years ago, at the time that we're recording this interview, I was working for some of the top branding firms, and my last post was in Dubai in the Middle East, and I went through a series of personal life-changing events, which it took about 6 months off to kind of figure out what I wanted to do next in my life. And I knew that it was branding. I knew that I no longer wanted to work necessarily with Fortune 500 brands. And I wanted to create an agency that was inspiring and helping a whole audience segment that didn't have access to the same level of Fortune 500 branding. And that ended up being entrepreneurs and small businesses. And so the vision that I created at the time was to start an agency to help entrepreneurs and small businesses that were doing some sort of economic and social impact in the world. And so hence the name Branding for the People was born, the agency was formed, and the whole idea is to be able to help businesses, obviously, like you had mentioned, increase their impact and create market leadership. But a big part of what really makes us different, it's not just about making a prettier website or creating a logo or even getting your message down nailed. We're really in the business of transformation. And that's what really differentiates us. If you want to work, go through the branding process and have your life and your business be completely transformed, then you're in the right place with Branding for the People.
Yeah. I love what you're doing. It's clear you're having a huge impact, and that emotional component of what you do really does set you apart. And I love that you're working with entrepreneurs. Yay. So that's everyone who listens to this show. Definitely check out Reid's work. It's amazing. And the fact that you are working with largely purpose-driven businesses, those that are trying, like, as you said, to have a positive economic and social impact on the world, we definitely need more of that right now. So I'm so happy of what you're doing. It's clear you're super busy. You're working in industries all around the world. Right now, in this moment in time, what has you most inspired about your business?
Yeah, so on top of the transformational work that we're doing, there's a few things that really keep me inspired. One, it's the team and the fact that the agency has grown. I'm inspired by creativity. I'm inspired by strategic thinking, and I have that all in-house now. So, it's beyond just my own thinking, but it's really being able to have a team that you nurture and the culture that we have. And so my team inspires me every single day. The second thing is the opportunity to be able to make a bigger impact. And so while we've created a really strong presence offline, I've built the business rather quickly through speaking engagements and hosting events and sponsoring events and speaking at events. And so while we have the brand out there in the marketplace through speaking engagements and offline, I'm excited about really what's possible about taking the brand more digitally and online and being able to serve people from around the world who would have never otherwise had access to this line of thinking or to the community and the tribe that we are building. The third thing that inspires me about my business, to be honest, is the fact that I'm able to do my highest level of work that I was meant to do, such as the speaking, such as the high-level networking events, And what I mean by that is it kind of goes back to the first point, which is the fact that I have a great team and the infrastructure in place to be able to support still delivering great customer service for all of our clients. But where my time is being spent is in the areas where I can provide my highest value to the world. It's being available to do interviews like this. And I know that you said, yes, we're all busy. You're busy just as much as I am. We're all busy. But the fact that we carved out time to be able to share with your community and to hopefully whoever's listening in, whether you listen to the entire interview or 40 minutes of it, but my intention on these types of interviews is to always hopefully say that one thing that was meant for that person to hear at that time that will completely and radically shift or transform their life or their business because they heard it in that particular moment. So anyway, that's what inspires me about my business structure right now, is that I'm doing my highest level of service in the world because I have the team and the agency to help support the workflow that's coming in.
Yeah. And I want to congratulate you on being able to form that team and also to delegate to that team all of the things that don't serve you best or your business, and which allows you to do these kind of interviews and opportunities to speak, because you are impacting so many people. And that was clear when we met at the Fast Inc. conference in Phoenix, Arizona, where I was super amazed by everything that you said. So it was more than just one sentence. And you clearly have a gift for speaking and also for inspiring people to do their best work and really think about kind of the brand and the image that they're putting out into the world about themselves and their business. So, and also I love that you're coupling those kind of in-person engagements with really taking advantage of all of the tools that the internet has available. So for tons of people who are tuning into this episode, many people are thinking about, how do we leverage all of the social media platforms and our newsletters? I think what your company is doing is a great example. So for people who aren't familiar with Branding for the People, definitely Google the company and subscribe to the newsletter, because I think you'll learn a lot about how to do that effectively. I want to kind of go back. So you had said, when you kind of formally left corporate America, you spent kind of 6 months thinking about what you wanted to do next. And I want you to get back into that mindset and help us understand the beginning, the genesis of Branding for the People. Did you go into starting this company with the burning desire that you wanted to impact the world, have a huge dent in the world, be purpose-driven? Or did you primarily start the business because you're kind of done with corporate America, you're maybe tired of fitting into a culture that didn't really value all parts of who you are? Kind of like, which side of the coin did you land on? And can you share a little bit about why?
Yeah, well, the question is so important, and I want to make sure that I don't diminish my response to that. So I want to just unpack that a little bit, because okay. So here's how I'll respond to that. That I think throughout my lifetime, from the moment I was born to going into high school and not sure, coming out was the right time to come out in high school, and then being 19, where it was okay to come out, it was easier to come out of the closet. But then, working in the professional environment, my whole life's journey has been about being safe and okay with who I am and who I'm not, and owning who I am. And so, if to kind of respond to your question, the pinnacle of what kind of like enough was enough was when I was in Dubai, and I went through a series of personal events, which why was I in Dubai, where it's completely illegal to be who I am? And so I left that, and I took about 6 months off to just figure out life. And I knew that it was no longer about trying to be something that I'm not. It was no longer about hiding. It was no longer about running away from something. It was about standing in my own power and doing that which I love. And I knew that it was branding. I'm good at it. I love it. It's fun for me. It's great for me. But I also knew that working with Fortune 500 brands and industries that didn't really excite me. It was tearing away at my soul. And so I had decided that I wanted to work with brands that were making some sort of economic and social impact. And that led me to entrepreneurs and small businesses. Now, truth be told, Rhodes, originally it was because I had no other option. I left this other position. I left a very comfortable salary working for someone else. And I took 6 months off. I racked up $50,000 in credit card debt. And I knew it was more important for me to figure out my purpose in life than it was to necessarily take another job and have a salary. So the original driver was to basically never have to work for someone else again and to replace my income. So on a very tactical and functional level, originally it was that. Now, let me pair that out because, of course, what goes hand in hand is the fact that I was only going to do that as long as I was aligned with my dharma and my purpose. And that was really being of service to brands that were making some sort of impact and making the world a better place. So it's kind of both or all of it, I suppose.
All of the above. And such a thoughtful response. I really loved what you said about standing in your own power and doing what you love and really just trying to align your work with that, knowing that you didn't want to have a boss again. You wanted to, you are the visionary, and you were really intentional about getting started. And it reminds me of something that I say to myself every morning, which is just like a little kind of mantra or intention, which is like, I bravely create my truth, living freely, doing what I love. That really just, what you had said really resonates with what I'm trying to do in my own business. So I love that. I really love that. So kind of like on that second part of that question, thinking about workplace culture, I'm really curious, you talked about being really intentional about building your team. It seems like you delegate a lot and give them a lot of stretch opportunities in the work that they're doing.
Yep.
I'm curious, what's one thing that you do in your business to make sure that you're creating, the most inclusive environment that you can, especially for folks who often feel excluded by dominant workplace culture, like in corporate America, kind of where you left?
Wow, I don't know that I can zero in and say that there's one particular thing, but so maybe I'll refer to this thematically, because if you look at the composition of my team, we're quite diverse. And so I think that is representative of not only having diverse people, but having diverse thinking and being able to have different points of view. So that actually leads me to, I think a more appropriate response to your question, which is one of the things that I ensure is my job is to empower my team to be able to be at their best. And so it's no longer necessarily about me. Like I've had a colorful career in branding. I'm really good at it and so forth. But when it comes to the team and the culture and the environment that we're creating, it's not about I'm the boss. In fact, it's about how can each person on my team take on a leadership role within the company. And part of it has to look at, well, one, do they want to be a leader, and what are they best at leading in? And two, if they're scared about being a leader, well, what is that? Because I believe that everyone is meant to lead in some capacity. So what is that? What do we need to work on? Maybe it's the right opportunity to have you do that. Giving people an opportunity to work directly with clients. In some agencies, designers don't even talk with the clients. Our clients talk directly with the client. Our designers talk directly with our clients. Little tactical things. That's why I said it's hard for me to say one particular thing. But the net of all of that, Rose, is the fact that we have a very collaborative, high-performing environment, and we foster people to become leaders and own responsibilities, not just fulfill on tasks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's very much like that Zappos model, right? Where you are hiring really talented people, identifying what they're interested in, their strengths, and trying to kind of match that up with your company's need, and really cultivating them. You're mentoring in a lot of ways, and I think that that's just such a testament for you, being an effective leader and really caring for your own people. And I think that does set a culture of inclusion and kind of like the most advanced way, right? Where it's not just kind of looking at people diversity, but you're looking at thought diversity and also building skills, building leadership. I think that's great. I'd love to shift a little bit and talk more about your identity,
Okay.
your LGBT identity, as that kind of shows up in your business today. So not so much kind of looking back at your corporate career, but since starting Branding for the People in 2011, I was hoping that you could maybe share a moment where being out might have been challenging for you, in the sense of you may have kind of not disclosed all of who you are to a client, or talked about more of your background because you were afraid of losing a revenue source, or you just didn't feel safe. Can you think of an example like that may have popped up since 2011, and how did you work around that? How did you kind of recognize, like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm covering this aspect of who I am, and ... How did you work around that? Because I know a lot of people who tune into the show are curious, or they're struggling, or they're trying to navigate with how out should they be in their business. And
Well, okay, so my answer might be different than some of the other people that you've interviewed. Since 2011, which is how you asked the question, since 2011, since starting my own agency, I've actually never put myself in a situation, or I've never felt apologetic about my identity, my sexual orientation identity. I've never allowed myself to go there. And the reason why is because when I started this company to work on my own, it was more than just working on my own. It was more about me living my own truth. And a part of that has to do with the fact that I don't have to hide. I'm the boss. I don't have to hide my identity. And so it's almost the reverse. It's the flip side of the coin of what you're asking me. Is like, I've been in many situations where I would deliberately mention that I'm gay, or I would deliberately mention, because sometimes people don't know or they don't identify, but I would deliberately mention so that it was crystal clear that the prospect knew who was sitting right in front of them. And I'd much rather have that done on the upfront before 2, 3, 6 months down the road, realizing that he or she have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I do recall one time, it was probably my first year in business, where it was probably going to be a really big opportunity. And I remember specifically outing myself. I never heard from the guy again. And was it a lost revenue stream? Sure. Was it worth it am I heartbroken about it? Absolutely not. Because I would not take money from someone, no matter how much it is, if he or she was not fully aligned with my own value systems, or did not accept me for who I am and who I'm not.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And I think it's a important reminder for people really struggling with determining how out they want to be in their business, or if they just want to bust out of the gates and be themselves 100% of the time. Just knowing that when you are, and I think like just all of the wisdom that you just shared in your response, showing that, you're wildly successful and you're 100% out, and you're deliberate in sharing that with every prospective client. And by virtue of doing that, you're attracting those kind of dream clients and really weeding out, like the example that you shared, this one particular person who was radio silence after you came out to them, right? And that's a good thing. Yeah, you lost some money there, but you also gained probably many other clients that really appreciate your perspective and really trust you because you're so open with who you are. And I think that's really an important reminder for people struggling with this particular aspect of running a business and being LGBT. So on the kind of flip side of that, this show is 100% about empowerment. And so I really like to amplify the benefits that come with being an LGBT boss. And I'd like for you to reflect on, from your perspective, why being an out boss is an asset to the work that you do. So specifically, what are some of the immediate strengths that come to mind when you think of the power of being an out boss in your space?
The strengths that come to mind of the power of being an out boss, I'll go to the commentary that as a boss, or really as a CEO or the leader of my own organization, what I'm a stand for is that people, no matter who they are, that people can honor and celebrate their own expression. And so if I can't do that for myself, how can I possibly imagine for my employees and my team and or even the clients that I'm or the audiences that I'm speaking in front of, how can I expect them to do that? So what I'm really saying is like I'm a stand for full self-expression and creative freedom. And so for me to show up and live that, it's like it's almost as if I don't even think about like should I do this? It's just like this is just so a part of my way of being. But my context for why I believe in having that be an asset and having that show up in my business is has less to do with me. It has everything to do with what that makes available for other people to know that they too can have that way of being. They too can be themselves. And then it has this trickling effect, Rhodes, of like what happens from there. What's possible in the world from there when everyone showed up that way.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely holding that space and you're serving as a possibility model for other people that just they might not be there yet, but they can look to you and they can get some inspiration and they can see what happens when really being comfortable in their own skin. And you know what you're saying really reminds me like kind of that full expression, you know, the creative freedom is something that I had a guest, Jonathan Lovitz, who was on episode 13, and he was talking about how we as LGBT people are really the architects of our own lives, right? Especially as younger people, you know, I can speak for myself. I didn't grow up in a major city. I didn't have a lot of out people around. In fact, I can't think of anyone. And yet kind of I was taking a stab at just being me. And I think for many of us, that's what we do. And I think as an extension of that, being a business owner, a lot of that when you're just getting started, there's some similarities, you know, to coming out in a way. You're reintroducing yourself to people in a new way. You're really relying on the resiliencies that you've gained, especially through the coming out process. So I love what you said on that. I think it's really, really helpful. So one other question before we go to a quick sponsorship break, and that's, you know, considering some of the challenges of being out, you know, that some of us experience and also, you know, those strengths, you know, that we get from being an out boss. What would you like our listeners to really focus in on and make sure they take away just to inspire them to be more authentic in their work every day?
Well, the one thing I really want to make sure that comes across loud and clear, and I didn't say it in this particular word, but I'm going to highlight it right now. It's this idea of having a point of view, and having a point of view can be very polarizing. People are going to love you, and people are going to hate you. You can't control hating people. Hopefully, you're not there intending to have people hate you. But the point is, when you being authentically you, and you have a point of view, then you're going to polarize people, and that's okay. Because as long as you are living your own truth, that's all that matters. And then if you were to focus your energy and time on surrounding yourself with the people and creating a tribe or a community of people or a network of people who are your raving, loyal fans, people who love you. And it's in that sort of model or approach is why wouldn't you want to do that? To be authentically you and surrounded by people who love you for exactly who you are, that builds more momentum in anything. It builds more momentum in your life and your business.
Yeah, that's fabulous advice, and it's true. You know, when you are yourself, there will be people that gravitate to you, and there will definitely be people that you turn off. And fortunately, you can weed out those people and really hone in on, okay, how do I further engage, you know, my fans or people that really believe in the work that I do. And I think that everything that you're doing through your newsletter and engagement online and both and also at speaking engagements, you're your company really does that well. And so I, again, encourage listeners to check out Branding for the People online. And, if Reid is speaking in a city near you, go see him. He's awesome. So with that, we're going to take a very quick sponsorship break, but please don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to go into our quickfire questions and learn a little bit more about Reid and learn about ways to stay in touch with his business. Aspiring out bosses, are you struggling with taking that first entrepreneurial leap? Does the imposter syndrome prevent you from getting started? Have you considered seeking support, but you're just not sure where to turn? Look no further. The Out Entrepreneur now offers a coaching and mentorship program where you can access support and strategies to shift your mindset from employee to entrepreneur. If you're looking for accountability and a mentor who successfully busted out of the 9-to-5 lifestyle, let's schedule a time to talk today. Visit www.outentrepreneur.com and look for show notes from today's episode to schedule a call. Again, the URL is www.outentrepreneur.com. Together, let's welcome you to the wonderful world of being an out boss. Welcome back, Out Bosses. We are now going into our bonus round where we'll have the chance to get to know Reid a little better, gain some insights on how we can bring our whole selves to work, and then learn one way to stay in touch with Reid's business after today's conversation. So Reid, are you ready for some quickfire questions?
Yeah, let's have some fun.
So what's one personal habit that helps you master yourself and your business?
It's actually something that I started to adopt several years ago, the moment I wake up. And I know that it's very, very easy for us to just reach for our phones and check our email. And I've been there. I've done that, where it's like, you're just starting out your business. You just, you want to know what's happening and you want to get plugged right in. So I really had to retrain and really develop the moment I wake up, and also the moment before I go to bed, is really having a moment of gratitude, being thankful for being alive, being thankful for what is to come throughout the day, and of course at the end of the day, being thankful for what has transpired. And why that habit was been so purposeful is because it allows me to be present in the moment of what's really happening. So morning and night gratitude.
Yeah, having that sacred time to really just kind of plug in with how you're feeling, body scan, quick check. I mean, the simple things of basic gratitude of thanks for another day, thanks for breathing, just
Sure.
those kind of things are so important and just a great reminder. So thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, name one thing that you readily delegate to your awesome team so that you can stay focused on what you're good at in your business.
Pretty much almost everything, but most particular, anything that has to do with numbers. I can really figure out numbers if I really need to. I'm actually not bad with numbers, but it's not my highest level of thinking or of work. And so to the extent that I can delegate anything numbers related, I'll do it to my team.
Yeah. And I think, again, you're totally living the dream where you are delegating a lot. But just kind of knowing, and this is more for those folks just starting to build your team, like for Reid, numbers was at the top of the list. So definitely, continue writing the dream list of all the things you want to delegate out, understand them, and find good people that are way better at doing it than you are, so you can stay focused on, for Reid, branding and just that vision around it. So Reid, can you share a book or a podcast that has contributed to your success as an out boss?
Well, there's a couple. So like when I didn't go too much into detail about this, but when I was in Dubai and I took about 6 months off to kind of figure out life, I was really going through a personal breakup. And there was actually 4 books that made the hugest difference in my life. Sorry, I can't just give you one.
I love it.
But thematically, they all centered around the same thing. And I think this is really important for the listeners on this particular podcast. Thematically, what I really went through in that process of transitioning, working for the big firms to then starting my own company, what I really needed to work on was self-love. And there were 4 books that really helped me in the context of that. So the first one is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama, The Path to Love by Deepak Chopra, And the last one was called The Velvet Rage, which I forgot the gentleman's name, but he is either a psychiatrist or a psychologist I think in Southern California. But someone had turned me on to that to just kind of understand, and he's a gay author, to just help me understand certain things, just even with my own identity and a perspective that I wasn't thinking about of what gay men go through. So, but thematically, all four of those books really helped me go deeper into a deeper sense of self and a deeper sense of self-love.
Just such a sign of a leader, right? Where you have that self-awareness to know, like, hey, I'm feeling this, like self-love was a thing that was popping up for you. And maybe it wasn't until after you read those books where you're like, oh, I noticed these themes, but the fact that you can point that out really specifically just shows that level of self-awareness. And I've heard of all the first three, I've read the first three, but Velvet Rage, that seems like a really fascinating book. So for our listeners, I'll of course share all the links to these books, but I love these recommendations too, because it's not kind of your traditional business books. So thank you for sharing that. Sometimes it's good to kind of, well, of course, focus on yourself and take care of yourself so that you can be more present in your business. So a couple more questions for you, just two. The first is, can you share one piece of advice to inspire the next generation of outbosses to take that first entrepreneurial leap?
Yeah, so one of the contexts that I always have for life and everything, and I kind of learned this when I started doing lots of personal development work, is I imagined a world where people didn't live in fear. So imagine that every single decision that you make in your life is either coming from a place of fear or love. And so whether it's starting a business and taking that entrepreneurial leap, what would be possible if you made that decision from a place of love rather than fear? And fear is this like mental construct that doesn't really serve you, and so there's really nothing to be afraid of. Like what fear of failure? Like you're gonna fail. If no one's ever told you that, you're gonna fail in different aspects and different things. You don't have to necessarily fail at everything, and the goal is not to go bankrupt. But if you start that entrepreneurial plunge, or I forgot how you framed it, but if you start that journey from a place of love, you will go much further, much faster, and more fulfilled along that journey.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I like the construct of fear and love. I often especially when I got started, I thought of it from kind of the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. And I think I feel like I was programmed more on the fear or scarcity side. And for me, it was really embracing the abundance side. And by doing that and really aligning with other entrepreneurs and people in my space, you're right. I mean, it really advances you by leaps and bounds when you kind of make that mindset shift. So I think it's awesome advice. So last question for you, Reid. One, thank you again for being on the show. So wise. And it's really an honor to chat with you just for a bit. Can you share a way that we can stay in touch with you and learn more about your business after we're done with our conversation today?
Sure. I'll keep it simple for everyone, but it's just brandingforthepeople.com. Branding, FOR, not the number 4, brandingforthepeople.com. We make it a point to make sure, like Reid said, yeah, if you want free, valuable resources, join our newsletter list. If you want to schedule a call with us, please make sure you follow that. But please make sure you mention this podcast.
Yeah.
was introduced to us because it makes that much more of a powerful conversation. We love to meet other LGBT businesses and whatnot, but just brandingforthepeople.com. We'll keep it simple.
Yeah, thank you. And for our listeners, definitely visit the website. We'll have it in the show notes, and take advantage of, a conversation with Reid and his team. They're amazing. Some of the best in the world of branding, I think probably the leaders. But yeah, really, really solid work. So definitely take advantage of that. Again, thanks Reid for your time. I really appreciate it. And for Outbosses, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. As always, it's my privilege to connect you with so many inspiring outbosses like Reid. So as a next step, definitely check out those show notes and subscribe to the podcast. And please consider leaving a rating and review in iTunes. And for now, keep being your authentic selves 100% of the time.